الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله جل جلاله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وأولاده المعصومين حجة الله. اللهم صل على محمد. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. لبيك اللهم لبيك. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم اجعل قلبي بار وشكار ورزق دار والهادي برور واجعل عندك نبيك محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وآله وسلم استقر وقرارا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الله
डंडे के बगैर काम नहीं चलता ना। अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश्शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी कान मौजूदन क़ब्ल हुदूसिल अशिया व यब्क़ा बअद फ़नाइल अशिया तफ़र्रद बिल अव्वलियति वल क़िदम व वसम कुल्ल शैइन मा अदाहु बिल फ़नाइ वल अदम कमा क़ाल अज़्ज़ शानु कुल्लु शैइन हालिकुन इल्ला वजहहु व कुल्लु नफ़्सिन ज़ाइक़तुल मौत व क़ाल कुल्लु मन अलैहा फ़ानियुन व यब्क़ा वजहु रब्बिका ज़ुल जलालि वल इकराम सुब्हान मन ला यख़फ़ा अलैहि इख़्तिलाफ़ुन निय्यात ولا يعزب عنه ما العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفوه تفضل ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينتهم نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرق وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وأروة وثقى فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقالوا ما لنا لا نرى رجالا كنا نعدهم من الأشرار اتخذناهم سخريا أم زاغت عنهم الأبصار صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I begin by advising myself and all of you to adopt and practice the taqwa of Allah, the piety, as is the best of provisions. The verse that I chose for today's khutbah of Jum'ah is from Surah Sad, verse number 62. In the light of the days and the ayyam-e-azah that we are going through, and the practices that are associated with ayyam-e-azah, I thought it would be befitting that we discuss something in that reference. Apparently, the verse and the ayat and the translation of this ayat states, Malana, the people who are the inhabitants of Jahannam. This is their kalam. This is their plea. These are their words that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is narrating in His book. They will be saying, and they will say, why is it that we do not see here men whom we used to count amongst the bad ones, ridiculing them, or do our eyes miss them here? Imagine, person has landed in Jahannam, and now in Jahannam he's looking around, and he does not see those people that he thought in this worldly life were what? Evildoers. He thought they would definitely be here with me. If I'm here in Jahannam, then those people, they must be here as well. But when he looks around, he does not find them. He said, Malana, la nara rajalan, kunna na'udduhum min al-ashar. We thought those people were evil. We thought they were the worst of the human beings, yet we don't find them over here. So of course, the problem is, when you don't find them in Jahannam, where are they? They are in Jannat. They have gone to the paradise. So first thing that we understand from this concept is that don't make judgment about someone in this worldly life. When you look at someone, apparently, things that they're doing, if they are committing a sin in front of you, or if you have heard of them doing a sin, right away you make up your mind saying, oh, this person is going straight to hell. That's not our area of passing fatwa. It is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is possible that a person might not have done any good throughout their life, but the last moment, aqibat bil khair. Example of Hur ibn Yazid Riyahi. That Hur, all along his life, what he did up until the last moment, he stood up against Imam of the Ummah, Imam of the time. Yet, do we have any doubt the final abode of Hur ibn Yazid Riyahi? Definitely he is at the highest of the places in paradise. That's where his maqam is. So from this we understand this ayat in Tafsir Nur al-Thaqalain. There's a riwayat from our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. A group of Shia came to Ahlul Bayt and complained that there's a group of people who call them Rafidi. We explained who Rafidi are. And they said that, they consider us worse than polytheists. They consider us Rafidi, and they consider us to be worse than polytheists, kuffar, Jews and Christians. Imam then swore upon God by saying, you will attain our shafa'at while they will be looking for you in the hell. And then Imam recited this ayat. If they are calling you Rafidi, if they are ridiculing you for your practices, if they are making fun of you for what you do, As you see in the world today, when we commemorate the Azah of Sayyid al-Shuhada, many people roll their eyes and they look at, what are these people doing? They have nothing else to do but to commemorate 2.5 months of majlis after majlis, matam after matam. And right away, people start ridiculing the practices of madhab tashayyu. What does that do to someone who has a strong faith? Nothing. It doesn't deter them one bit. But those who are lesser, and I don't want to say they're dhaiful iman, but their iman is not as qawi yet. Their iman is not as strong. Itna pukhta iman nahi hai abhi. Jawan, bacche ghaliban. How would they feel? They start questioning. Are we doing something right? Are we making a mistake? What are we doing? Is there a stamp of approval in what we are doing, or is it? So right away, this is where this group of people said to Imam that people call us Rafidi. They call us polytheists. They consider us to be worse than Jews and Christians. Today, you look at the Wahhabis are the same way. They'll rather shake hands with the Jews and the Christians than to go ahead and amend things with Ahlul Bayt and the followers of Ahlul Bayt. As simple as that. It is difficult for you to go ahead and perform the duties and the rituals in Saudi Arabia, but it is easy for a pop singer to go ahead and conduct a concert over there and casinos to be opened, while you and I want to do what? Do ziyarat of Baqi, and we're not allowed to do that. You want to go inside the Baqi, go ahead and sit on the grave of Imam Masoom, you're not allowed. That's forbidden. That's a bid'ah. That's haram. But at the same time, if you want to have a casino, if you want to go ahead and have a concert, bring the top singers over there, yeah, nothing wrong with that. That is something permissible. So they will rather shake hands with those who are the staunch enemies of Islam, but they will never side with you. They will never sit with you. So it has become a norm these days to label mu'mineen as now this is, I'm talking about outsiders. Now look at within the Shia circle. Now within the Shia circle, there comes about so many different groups that arise, especially in Ayyam Azah. During the Muharram and Safar Majalis, you find that there's variety of groups that have come about. They emerge from somewhere. Right away, because of the practices of some of these people, you call them, Maulai, you call them either whatever, and sometimes you call them Yazidi agents as well. Unfortunately, these are the labels that are commonly passed around amongst the Shias, unfortunately. अरे वो कौन है? वो तो बड़े मौलाई हैं. वो कौन है? अरे ये तो वहाबी हैं, शिया, वहाबी शिया हैं. क्या मतलब? They're all Shia, they're all followers of Maktab Ahl Bayt. They're all commemorating the Shahadat of Sayyid al-Shuhada. How are you going to label one person Wahhabi Shia, one person Maulai, one person this, one person that? Different name calling come about. Surah Nisa 94 answers. To those who are within the circle, calling each other to be Yazidi agents, and to those who are outside of the circle, labeling us as Rafidi or Ghairi Muslim and whatnot. It says, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ عَلْقَى إِلَيْكُمُ السَّلَامِ لَسْتَ مُؤْمِنًا. Do not call or do not say to someone who offers you salam that you are not a believer. According to this ayat of Surah Nisa number 94, if anyone says peace be unto you, salamun alaykum, you're not allowed to go ahead and call that person to be ghaire mu'min. That person is, according to the ayat of Quran, is mu'min. Of course, this comparison is a result of these people condemning some of the practices of Azadari. And since these practices are sha'airullah and sha'air Husseini, anyone questions them becomes what? The forces of Yazidi. So right away, if anyone questions the sha'air of Allah, anyone questions sha'air Husseini, right away, what are you doing? Have you not noticed that a lot of time when you look at something new that emerges, and then you start questioning, say, no, don't say anything about it. Yes, baare mein na bolo bhai, khuda na khasta kuch galat na ho jaye. If someone is doing some niyaz in certain way, if someone is holding majlis in certain way, if someone is initiating or showing what they used to do back home, and then we question, is like, is this even allowed? Have our Maraj given permission for such a thing? So don't question this about Azah. You don't want to be questioning about something which might be, right. And you and I do not have the proper knowledge. I tell you, brothers and sisters, concentrated and concerted efforts are being made to undermine the sanctity of Azadari every single year. Every single year, there are things that come about and emerge which are doing what? Which are undermining the sanctity of Azadari, and especially during these Ayyam Azad. When we should be concentrating on the reform of ourselves, instead, we are here to deviate from the path and to dwell only on if this is right or if that is wrong. If this is halal, ye sahi hai karna, ye sahi nahi hai karna, ye halal hai karna, ye halal hai nahi karna, ye kar sakte hain ya ye nahi kar sakte. We're questioning these things. While we should have been beyond that, focusing on what? Focusing on the message of Sayyid al-Shuhada. What Imam Hussain did, what he was able to accomplish, what did he rise for? Imam ka falsafa shahadat kya tha? Maqsad shahadat kya tha? All of those things should be analyzed in our majalis. Instead, we are now confused whether this is right or this is wrong. Azadari, let it be clear, is imminent for our existence. Without it, we'll cease to exist. Where I think I quoted Imam Khomeini said, it's Muharram and Safar which has kept Shia alive. If it wasn't for Muharram and Safar, if it wasn't for the Azza of Sayyid al-Shuhada, you and I would have been in the same lines as those who are so-called Muslims now. They don't have an identity. They don't really know where to subscribe to. At least you have an identity. Meaning that the followers of Ahlul Bayt were outnumbered by the followers of the Ashab. Was it not for Azadari, our ancestors wouldn't have survived. A yearly reminder about the tragedy of Karbala is like the daily reminder from Salat to keep us on track. Every year this Azza comes along. If we had moved away from the circle and Markaziyat, it brings us back to the Markaz. Don't go too far away. Come back to the path. Shia around the world all have different ways of expressing their grief. You go to Iraq and Iran for Ayyam Azam, especially now people go a great deal to commemorate the first 10 days of Muharram, and they go to Arba'in Hussaini, they do Karbala. You've seen the practices of the Iraqi people. Now, many of those things that you've seen might be questionable to us. We haven't really been accustomed to it. For example, one thing that I've noticed, they use drums and they beat drums on the day of Ashura. Imagine you have the procession going on and you got drums being beaten. Some of our people saw that and said, Maulana, is this allowed? I said, we're walking in the land where there's maraja all around us. And of course, I don't know how much their say is in it, but this is a cultural thing. It's not disrespectful toward Azza. But for us to imagine, we have a majlis going on over here in our Indian Pakistani culture, and someone brings a drum. It's like, get out of here. What are you doing? It's not permissible over here. But something like that over there is something which is normal. Similarly, many things that we do in our Indian and Pakistani culture are certain things that they may not have noticed or they may have not seen it before. So it'll be a matter of, oh, this is new. We haven't really seen something like this. The notion, and I'll bring it to, try and keep it as concise as possible. The notion that how are we going to face Janab Fatmatul Zahra Salamullahi alayha. पता नहीं आपने सुना ये जुमला, बीबी को क्या चेहरा दिखाएंगे? How are we going to face her tomorrow on the day of judgment when we haven't done a majlis in our house? घर में majlis नहीं की तो हम उनको क्या शक्ल दिखाएंगे? If we did not bring out the alam or the tabut on certain days, how are we going to face Janab Sayyida? Or if we didn't bring out the jhula of Hazrat Ali Asghar or the mehndi of Hazrat Qasim, if these remind you of the tragedy of Karbala, then there's nothing wrong with it. Let people do it. As long as nothing haram is being done, if these practices of alam and jhula and mehndi and all those things, if they remind you, bring you close to the essence of Karbala, then there's nothing wrong with it. That's what our Maraji have given us instructions. That's why you find many of these things are happening. Even the drum beating is happening on the day of Ashura. If that is not, if it's bringing you close, and that's what these Matamis say, that when drum is beaten, their chorus, and when they respond to the Matam, it brings the emotions to them. and they are able to express their emotions better that way. If these things are causing for you to get close to Imam Hussein and love of Imam Hussein increases in you and his family, then good. But you shouldn't expect everyone to do it because you have been doing it and it's being done in your culture. यानी अगर एक चीज हमारे मसलन मैं जहां से मेरा ताल्लुक है, मैं अपनी मिसाल दे दूं ताकि किसी को ऑफेंसिव ना फील हो, कि मैं मसलन मेरा ताल्लुक जो है वो पाकिस्तान से है और मेरा ताल्लुक हैदराबाद से है या कराची से है, और जहाँ पे आज़ादारी हर तरीके से होती है, कुछ चीज़ें वहाँ पे ऐसी होती हैं अगर मैं यहाँ आया हूँ वो नहीं हो रही हैं, I don't have the right to question. आप लोग वो क्यों नहीं करते? हमारे यहाँ तो ये होता है. आप लोग ये क्यों नहीं निकालते? हमारे यहाँ तो ये निकलता है. आप लोग ये क्यों नहीं करते? It doesn't have to be done. Simple answer to this is that if you find differences in expressing your feelings towards Aza of Sayyid al-Shuhada, people of Iraq are doing in one way, people of Tanzania are doing it in another way, people of India and Pakistan are doing it another way. Within India and Pakistan, there's so many different cultures. They're doing Aza in different way. That tells you what? That tells you this is not something which is sanctioned by Shariat. Meaning Imam did not come and say, oh, you have to present and you have to do these things. आपको ये करना है, आपको ये ताबूत निकालना है, आपको ये आलम उठाना है, आपको ये झूला निकालना है, आपको ये मेहंदी करनी है. Imam did not say any of these things. If Imam had said it, all of us would have been doing it. It would have been unanimous. The fact that everyone is doing differently, expressing their sorrow and expressing their emotions differently, tells you what? It is nothing but our cultural way of expressing the grief for Sayyid al-Shuhada. Isn't that the case? अगर चार लोग मुख्तलिफ तरीके से किसी काम को अंजाम दे रहे हैं और चारों में कोई गलती नहीं है, मगर किसी का यह हक नहीं बनता कि दूसरों के ऊपर इंपोज करे कि मैं यूं करता हूं, आपको भी यूं करना चाहिए. या वहां पे हमारे यहाँ तो ये होता था, आपके यहाँ ये क्यों नहीं होता है? हमारे यहाँ तो 10 मुहर्रम को रोटी पकती थी, आपके यहाँ क्यों नहीं पकती है? मसलन दाल पकती थी, आपके यहाँ दाल क्यों नहीं पकती है? मसलन. Unfortunately, these are the things that we are all stuck in. There were many ways of doing matam. I talked about it the other night, so I won't go into that. I think the real question we should be saying, how are we going to face Janab Fatmatul Zahra Salamullahi alayha? Not when we have not done a majlis in our house or not taken out an alam or zari or this and that. The real question that we should be asking, that how are we going to face her when we have suppressed the message of Imam Hussein from reaching far and wide? You think she will be questioning if you did not take out the alam? Or you think she will be questioning if you did not, spread the message of Imam Hussein? Be honest. How low do we take Ahlul Bayt to be? They are beyond this. When we are fighting with each other over our petty differences during and after majalis, that this is not cooked in our house on Ashura and that is not worn where I come from, this is how we do things, this is not how we do things. The fact that we all do it differently tells you what? That there's diversity in Ashura. The only common ground is that everyone is sitting on this farsh aza for Imam Hussein. एक चीज जिसने सबको इकट्ठा कर रखा है वो सैयद शुहदा की जात है. That's the common ground. That should be the unifying factor. The fact that we all do differently is something which tells us that. When we're unable to show good akhlaq with Azadaran Hussein, you know how many things that you find during these first 10 nights? So many hurdles that volunteers go through, and some of the meanest things that they might hear left and right. Is this what Azza is teaching us? Is it not having any impact on us? When we come and sit, listen to Marsiya, Noha, Majlis, and then this is where this darsgah is giving us that akhlaq Husseini, and when we walk out, we forget all of these akhlaq. Men should be asking themselves, how are we going to face Janab Sayyida when we have lied, cheated, ridiculed, mocked people unnecessarily? That's the real question that we would be ashamed of facing Ahlul Bayt if we have not lived up to the character that they demand. Or when we have consumed haram on purpose, or when we utilize interest or usury in our transactions, and we mix our wealth with haram, That's when we should be worried कि हम क्या चेहरा लेके जाएंगे उनके सामने. Not when we are unable to do certain practices. Our women should be asking, how are we going to face Bibi when we have failed to observe hijab ourselves, and on top of that made fun of those who are observing hijab? एक तो मैं नहीं करूंगी, दूसरा ये कि जो कर रहा है उसको भी रोकना है. मर्दों का भी यही हाल है, खवातीन का भी यही. That when we have learned nothing from the akhlaq of Bibi Zainab, when we think that it's okay to dance and sing in front of na-mahram, in our social gatherings, mingle with na-mahram, laughing and joking. मौलाना बेटी की शादी है, एक दफा तो होनी है, कितनी दफा होगी? एक ही दिन की तो बात है. आज म्यूजिक हो जाए कोई मसला नहीं है, आज डांस फ्लोर भी हो जाए कोई मसला नहीं है. एक दिन से क्या जा रहा है? फिर दोबारा माशाल्लाह से वही. You've been listening to the sacrifice of Imam Hussein and his companions for many years. Develop insight, transfer them from your ears to your heart. अक्सर मतालिब यहीं रह जाते हैं, दिल तक नहीं पहुंच पाते हैं. कब से हम इस मैसेज को सुन रहे हैं, कब से हम इस अज़ा को मना रहे हैं. इस अज़ा को कानों से लेके दिलों तक लेके आए. Your Husseini, it should be displayed in your character कि हम हुसैनी हैं. Imam said what? He says, "Kunu du'ata linnase bighayri alsinatikum." Guide people to the right path without using your tongue. You don't have to say things to guide people. Your character should be the biggest example for anyone to come to the right path. So therefore, we are Husseini. Your character should be displaying Husseini. We are the enemy of Yazid. Your behavior should be void of Yazidi characteristics. Come to Majlis with pure hearts, with pure intentions. It will worship. Dhikr of Ma'asumeen is done over here. Purify yourself externally as well as internally. And then ulama also have a duty. It's not like just the people who are speaking to you only. No, ulama also have their specific duties by spreading the religion after Ma'asumeen. They have the dua of Janab Fatmatul Zahra, Salamullahi alayha. इंसान अपने आप को आमादा करे. Prepare yourself to listen to the ayat of Quran, ahadith of Masumeen, kalam of Masumeen. Imam Hussein was reciting Quran from the tip of the spear. Ahadith of the tragedy are so manipulated by some of the reciters, unfortunately. Because we thought when a shair was presenting his imagination, his takhayyul, he has the right to present his takhayyul and his imagination. But we don't have the right to go ahead and make that to be the reality that this is how things have taken place. Unfortunately, they're adding to the tragedy, which is already a biggest tragedy in the world. You hear Masaib sometimes, it's like, where is this coming from? Then Hazrat Abbas, for example, his legs were cut off. Where was this? I've never heard of this. But Zakirin are reciting this. And that Imam went blind. Imam Hussein went blind. And his back was broken. No, he said, Alan in kasara zahri. Figuratively speaking, oh Abbas, after your death, my back is broken. Not literally broken. Imam is saying in the figurative sense that when you lose your biggest supporter, what happens? Your back is broken. And then fake masaib to create more and more riqqat. If we alter the message of Imam Hussein, the message of Bibi Zainab today, and I add our fake stories to it, we're not better than Umar Asad and Shimr, who did the same thing by killing Imam Hussein and his companions. They literally killed Imam Hussein and his companions. By suppressing their message, we are killing them today again. Think about it. If you're not letting their message out, you're suppressing their message, what are we doing? We're doing what Shimr did and what Umar Asad did. They did not want Imam Hussein to be spoken. They did not want people to hear what Imam Hussein had to say, so they suppressed him. Umar Asad said, Iqta kalam al-Hussein. Right? When he asked Hurmala to shoot the arrow, what did he say? He said, Iqta kalam al-Hussein. Cut off the kalam of Imam Hussein. When Imam Zain al-Abidin was in the court of Yazid, and when he was giving the lecture, when he was speaking from the pulpit, and when Imam was getting to the emotions of the people, what did Yazid do? He asked the Muslim to say azan. Because you couldn't stop Imam from speaking the truth. He said, Imam will respect adhan and he will stop. Muazzin ne kaha, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Imam ne kaha, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Muazzin ne kaha, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Imam ne kaha, ruk ja yahan pe. Muhammad tere jat the ya mere jat the? अगर तू कह रहा तेरे जद थे तो तू झूठ बोल रहा है, और अगर मेरे जद थे तो सब जानते हैं, तो फिर देख हमारे साथ क्या अमल किया है. ये नबीजादियां जो यहाँ पे खड़ी हुई. So suppressing the message of Imam. So the lecturer must avoid narrating false dreams and untrue stories which only serve to defame the Husseini member and make it look like a cheap media outlet, incompatible of, reaching to the audience's intellectual level. Certain people will be turned off. These fairy tales are being mentioned from here, which have no value whatsoever. You do not think that the masaib are so heart-wrenching that you have to really make up new masaib for riqqat? So therefore it is important that scholars also pay heed. Tafsir Abu Futuh Razi, Prophet saw a group of people during Miraj whose lips were ripped apart. Unke hont phate hue the. Faqultu ya Jibreel, man haulai? Rasulullah said to Jibreel, "O Jibreel, who are these people?" Qala haulai khutaba'u ummatik yaquluna ma la yaf'alun wa ya'muruna an-nasa bil birri wa yansawna anfusahum. O Prophet, these are the khutaba and the lecturers and the speakers and the dhakirin of your ummat. They used to say what they did not believe themselves. They used to say what they did not do themselves. Ya'muruna an-nasa bil birri, they would tell people to do good deeds. Wa yansawna anfusahum, and they'll forget about themselves. मैं यहाँ खड़े होकर सिर्फ आपको नसीहत कर रहा हूँ कि आप अच्छे अमल अंजाम दें, आप तकवे से काम लें, आप मुत्तकी बने, मगर खुद मेरे दिल में तकवे नामी कोई चीज नहीं है. So this is the people. And then rawayat get even severe and severe. It says, Ya Abu Dharr, inna sharran nasi manzilatan indallahi yawm al-qiyamah. O Abu Dharr, the worst of the people as far as the ranks are concerned near Allah on the day of judgment is who? Alimun la yuntafa'u bi amalihi. वो आलिम जो अपने इल्म से खुद फायदा ना उठाए, दूसरों को तो फायदा पहुंचा रहा है, खुद नहीं फायदा उठा रहा है, खुद अमल नहीं कर रहा है उसके ऊपर. वमन तलबा इल्मन लियसरिफ बिही वुजूहन नास इलैहि लम यजिद रिहल जन्नह. हाँ, अगर कोई शख्स इल्म इसीलिए हासिल करता है ताकि लोगों की तवज्जुहात को, लोग इकट्ठा हो जाए मेरे सामने, वो उनकी तवज्जुहात जो है वो मेरी तरफ मबजूल हो जाए, कहते हैं लम यजिद रिहल जन्नह. This person will never smell the fragrance of paradise. Masaib of Ahl Bayt are heart-wrenching. No need to invent fake masaib. Remember what Bibi Zainab said upon returning to Karbala. O Hussein, I took your message from left to right. I took your message from Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham, to 26 different cities on the way. Yes, 26 different cities on the way. I took your message. But you know, Hussein, the price that I had to pay? The price that I had to pay was my chadar was snatched. I was beaten with taziana. I was struck with taziana. The young girls, their earrings were snatched right from their ears. And this is how we delivered the message. So when Bibi Zainab and Imam Zainul Abidin are delivering the message in such difficult environment, then why is it that you and I are suppressing the message in such easy environment? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to be able to ponder every time azar comes around, that are we doing what is expected from us? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our awaited Imam and make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam in the asl hadith. Wa ablagh al-mu'idha kitabullah, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal 'asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. The second khutbah will only be the Arabic. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-Halim al-Kareem. غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم. سبحان من سبقت رحمته غضبا وبسط اليدين بالرحمة. سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وفاني السيئات ولم يجاز بها. سبحان من لا يزداد على معاصي العباد إلا كرما وجودا ولا كثرة الذنوب إلا عفوا وصفا. نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو لطوف على العباد بجوده والعباد المذنبين بعلمه. ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين. ألا قد أمركم الله في محكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا للصفية إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبذة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى الحسن المجتبى وعلى الحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان ما هي آثار البدع والطغيان هادم أبنة الشرك والنفاق حاسد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آبائه الكرام اتصلت الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا وكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمراء المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أحله ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أحله بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. باقيات من الله